Good afternoon, everybody. On this Thursday afternoon, radio.com. We will be with you right up until 6:30. We'll join the fan at 6 o'clock as we finish up these final days of February. Um, some Yankee talk with Fine Sand in a couple minutes. But the other story today, and there's a couple, but the other main story today is this buzz intensifying last couple of days about quarterbacks and about the draft and also about Tom Brady. And listen, nobody knows what Tom Brady's going to do right now. This is just beginning. So with that being the case, I mean, we're also trying. They're also trying to come up with a new CBA right now, which is going to impact a lot of teams' thinkings about a lot of things. Um, I could see him on a couple of different teams. I can't see him on a lot of teams. I can see him on a couple of different teams. You've heard talk of him not wanting to go too far west because of his son that he has with Bridget Moynihan. That is here on the east. I don't believe the Giants stuff, just like I didn't believe the Cowboy stuff. But there are certain things that I just think you have to see happen before they happen. And one of them for me is I have to see Tom Brady leave the Pats. I'm not saying that he won't. I think there is a chance he will. But I have to see that happen. My first inclination is that they will work things out. Because I think when push comes to pull, Tom really wants to remain with the Pats. I think he wants everything he wants. He wants his money. He wants to know there are weapons. He wants to. Well, he knows if he's got Dante Scarnecchia there, that his offensive line will be better. He'll be okay. He clearly wants an improvement on the players around him at skill positions, and he wants a certain amount of money. But they have the money to give him, and I doubt they want to start over. You know that Kraft doesn't want to start over. I'm going to assume Belichick doesn't, but I don't know that. Kraft, I know how he thinks about Tom Brady, and I think Tom is better suited to the offense that he knows, to the team that he knows, the culture. Tom is very much a highly disciplined, highly structured, very intense guy. To go to a place that he doesn't understand, has to learn a new system, doesn't know the coaches, doesn't know the training people, doesn't know the staff, doesn't know the offense, doesn't know all the different things that are very important to him. To learn that at this stage, and not only that, to know that you had it where it was the best. The culture was the smartest. They were the best at it. The coach is the best at it. So to have all that at your advantage he doesn't want to leave that. I don't believe in his heart of hearts he does. And you saw Joe Montana say that the advice he would give Tom Brady was don't leave. Stay in the same place. From someone who knows. Stay in the same place. And I think if I were counseling Tom, I would tell him the wise move is to stay. That's the wise move. Now, if you're going to leave, I'd be very, very particular about where I would go. I would have to have a coach that I really had a lot of faith in and knew very well, and a system that would work very well, and a team that I knew was ready-made to win. That would be Tennessee for me. Vrabel's is one of his best friends. He knows what Vrabel's about. The team was in the championship game this year. They know what they're doing. They have a back that takes a lot of pressure off him. He will not get hit. They'll have to play the back, and it's going to be a very, very good thing for a quarterback in play action. So that would be the place for me. The sleeper place would be the Colts, because the Colt team is very talented offensively if the quarterback plays well, and they have a really good offensive line. That would be the sleeper place, and it's not that far. He's still close enough to get east, and that team is pretty good. So that would be the sleeper place. You've heard Tampa. Forget Dallas. You've heard Dallas. You've heard now you heard the Giants last couple. That's about the kid, but it's still the Giants. I mean, come on. All of a sudden, the Giants, who patted themselves on the back last year for taking Daniel Jones, now they're going to get rid of him, and they're going to. And one day, yesterday was Tua. Now it's going to be Tom Brady. I mean, come on. Why would he come to the Giants? That would be the biggest mistake, because by the time they got good, Tom would be in a rocking chair. So I don't buy that for a second. I really don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, would it be exciting for the Giant fans? Of course, but you know what? Odds are he's not going to win a championship wherever he goes. That's just remote. He'd have to pick his spot very carefully if he's going to win a championship. And I would think the most likely place for that would be Tennessee, without any question. That's not even close for me. So, but then again, there's a lot they're going to have to figure out, and there's a lot of speculation you're going to have to wait on because of the NFL has first things first. They got a lot of things to decide before we even get that far. We'll get to all the Yankee injuries and everything in a minute, and the whole thing with Stanton, which I know, which obviously, if one guy needed a good start to just make an early peace with the Yankee fans, it was Stanton. I mean, they have blamed him the last couple of years for everything, and now this happens, and you can just in the few seconds that I was listening today, and I was only heard it a few seconds when I was in the car, but the callers were predictably as predictably as it was, just killing Stanton, which should not surprise anybody that was the case. Absolutely should not surprise anybody. And the Yankees have gotten off to another rather rocky start when it comes to that, clearly. The draft, I told you a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, whenever it was, that if Tua was not ruled out medically, he would be the darling of the draft. And you're seeing that happen now. And I don't know yet, because he hasn't been inspected by these teams yet, but once he has been, and it sounds like they will clear the hip, I expect him to be picked third. I think if Burden had the year he had last year and he wasn't born where he was born and had the upbringing that he did, and it wasn't the Bengals, I would think that there was a very good chance the team would take Tua. But I think they don't want to deal with him, and Tua doesn't really want to go there anyway. So, and the Bengals know that vibe, and the Bengals are going to take Burrow. We know that. And Washington doesn't want to pick a quarterback, so we know that. And then you have the Lions, who are probably going to trade the pick because they can't trade Stafford. So I would think that's the case. But I think their team will straight up into the 3 spot and take Tua. I think that will happen. And then the Dolphins can decide whether they want to take Herbert or not at 5. Now, the Dolphins could trade from 5 to 3. Could definitely happen. If they really want to, or they could definitely, and that's a very distinct possibility, they could make that move very quickly. Just trade the 3. Give the Lions the 5th pick. Lions still get the same player they want. They're losing 1 slot to the Giants. That's it. And away you go. See, the Giants aren't in a terrible spot, but they're not in the perfect spot because the team in the 3 spot is probably going to be a serious trader, and that's going to mean that's the spot you're going to get to, not the Giant spot. The Giant spot will not get you Tua. You got to get the 3 to get the Tua, and that's why the Lions spot's perfect. And I'm going on the premise that they can't trade Stafford because the salary cap hit I've heard is in the $30 million range if for next year if with that trade. So I cannot see that happening. And you can't bring a young guy in if you're Patricia because, I mean, the guys there running that team are on the dime this year. This is it. They either win this year or they're out. So I cannot see them bringing in a quarterback who, A, might need a year to just get healthy. He's the long-range answer. I mean, he's perfect for a team that has some time on its hands and is finishing up with a quarterback. Or like Green Bay, or if Tom goes back to New England, the Pats, that's perfect. For some reason, I thought Tua was going to wind up with the Pats. I just had that in my head, but it doesn't look like – I mean, it still could happen, but it doesn't look like as likely. Now, could Tom go off, sign somewhere, and the Pats trade up to 3? Remember, the Pats have serious connections with the Lions. What if the Pats wanted to trade the 3 to get Tua? It's not crazy. They have serious connections with the Lions. What Brady walk and they go get Tua? I guess it's possible. It's not the craziest thing I ever heard. I've heard a lot of crazy things. If you've been paying attention to two things. Obviously, the virus is one, and the other is what the virus has done to the stock market. And I think there's a couple other things that work with the stock market too. Number one, it was getting a little frothy. It had gone up a lot. Number two, the idea that people think Bernie Sanders is going to be the Democratic nominee, which I don't think is a lock yet. He's clearly the favorite, but I don't think it's a lock yet. I think that's a little of that is seeping in. But I think this is more about the fact that they know now that there has been an incredible supply disruption worldwide that is going to affect the worldwide economy, which is going to bring the numbers down here in the next 2 quarters, which is causing people to jump out of these stocks now, which are at a very high rate and needed they were like priced to perfection. And you've seen it sell off like crazy the last couple of days. And what everyone wants to think is, do I run to the sideline or not? Well, if you haven't run to the sideline yet, you might as well stay put. I wouldn't be a buyer yet, though. Even at this juncture, I would wait a little while. I would actually take this one. Normally, I would say jump in with both hands. But this one has got so much unknown status to it that I would give up the first, 20% that you would get by being a little late. See it start to move, and you've been caught a couple of times. I have to admit, to be honest with you, I made a terrific prediction that this was going to be a big issue, the virus, and ran the protection with a lot of my stocks in the last couple of weeks, having the ability to get in and out. And then what did I do? So I got out. I was really smart. And what did I do? I jumped back in when I thought the coast was clear and tried to pick up some with profit. And what happened? I got caught where it went up, grabbed some, and boom, they got right back knocked down. So I wound up being smart and then being dumb. This one is not normal. And I would say that if you wake up tomorrow morning or any day and there's 86 cases and they're closed in New York City, or there's 86 cases and they're saying keep your kids home from school for 2 weeks, or they shut the schools, or they shut the airport, or whatever, it's going to send that market down another 1,000, 2,000 points. So you got to wait this one out until the coast is clear. You really do. Even if it costs you a little bit on the upside, you got to wait. You have to wait. This one's not normal. Because like today, it started to rally. It got all the way back. It reversed 600 points, and then they got the word in California that there was a cluster of them, and all of a sudden, boom! Now it went right back down 1,000 points. So I would be careful. It's not a normal correction. The California coronavirus case could be the first spread from person to person in the United States. Here we go. There's been cases already in Nassau County. There are people under quarantine already in Nassau County. So not a lot, but a couple. A couple that came back from Italy. A couple others. 6 they tested, they let go. They said they were okay. So, hey, just got to wait this out. I think my feeling myself is that we'll know by Monday whether it's going to get crazy or not. Crazy meaning that they shut the schools, or they tell you not to take the subway to work, or tell you not to come to work for 2 weeks, and stuff like that. That would be crazy. And I guess that stuff is possible. It really is. So don't panic about it. And I would say honestly, if you're really this, obviously if you're in the stock market and you're an investor and you're a serious investor, you know this, that time is the issue. If you're 30 years old, leave it alone. Don't even think of selling anything. Just don't touch it. You don't have to buy, just don't sell. You wait it out. If you're 40, the same thing. If you get a little closer where you need the money, well, then you have a decision to make. But if you don't need the money, this is money that is in investments and you have time frame to wait, you have 15, 20, 25 years, don't even think about it. Just, hey, it will pass. That's the bottom line. Don't even think, because just trying to time it, you'll miss. If you miss it was a study done. If you miss the top 5 days in the market over a period, like if you are a full-time full invested, and you miss the top 5 days in the market over a given 2 years, it would be like 80% of your profits would be gone. because those days where you don't, that's why you can't time it. No one can time it. You can. I'm not saying you can't get in and out. Now, that's different than timing it. You can get in and out. There was a rich man once who was asked why he was so wealthy, and he said, "I sold early," meaning that, hey, I got in, I made my money, I got out. I didn't try to wring out every dollar. If it went up afterwards, you know how you sell a stock and then it goes up 20 points, you're like, oh, what a dummy. That guy didn't think that way. He was like, I got in, I got my money, I got out. No one ever got hurt making a profit. So don't worry about the profit that you didn't make. Worry about the profit you did make. And if that's your practice and you just take your safe profit and get out, and it's a very good adage because it works. If you can be disciplined enough to do it. Because the worst thing is when you you sell it and it goes up 30 points, you're like, what a dummy. You're not a dummy. You got out with a profit. You did right. You can do that every time. You don't have to work soon. Quick break, and then we'll talk some Yankees. All right, let's talk some baseball with Fine Sand, and he's in Arizona now, but we can still talk some Yankees with him and some other things. Who are you with? Who are you looking at? Who you spend the day with in Arizona?
I am hopping around camp to camp, Mike. I'll be catching all 15 teams over the course of about 11 or 12 days.
What's are they still grumbling about the Astros, or is it dissipated?
No, it's definitely dissipated. I mean, you've heard a little bit of chatter, and some guys who I'm seeing for the first time are talking about it just to sort of we exchanging takes on it. But you're seeing a lot less of the anger that you saw the first week of camp, where guys aren't sitting there griping about it and trashing other players and trashing the Astros. They're just sort of accepting that it is what it is at this point. That penalties have been doled out, and mostly they're looking to get on with their own camps and worry about their own house.
Can you, as a guy who covers the nation, if you're a guy who is a Major League Baseball guy who, let's say they even know you and you're a national guy, can you go in on the Astros and talk to them about this, or have they shut things down?
The Astros themselves?
Yeah.
I haven't been in Florida yet, so I will hit their camp in a few weeks.
What are you hearing? Are they people? Are they willing to sit down with national guys and discuss it, or are they like, we're past that?
I mean, I think if you have a good relationship with somebody there, I'm sure you can. But I think at this point, they've said their piece. They've said that they're going to stay, and I think they're like everybody else. They're looking to worry about this season. They were saying that day, of course, but they knew they had to discuss it. And I think everybody who was part of that team who was going to discuss it has probably discussed it at this point. And I think everybody is ready to move on, at least in terms of talking about it. Obviously, they're not going to be able to move on. It's going to be a topic that lingers for the whole season and certainly follows the Astros around city to city as they go through their season. But, I think in terms of them wanting to talk about it, it's probably pretty much done.
Talking about Mark Feinsand that covers baseball, the Yankees for MLB, and longtime writer. And, the Yankees were a mortal lock with everybody this year, and I understand, why the Yankees and the Dodgers, highest over-under numbers I've ever seen for both teams. I've never seen a Yankee number over 100 ever, no matter the year. I've never seen anybody over 100. Both the Yankees and the Dodgers were over 100 because in recent years the teams have been winning 100 and the bad teams have been losing at a very high rate. The Oriole number is the lowest number I've ever seen. And they'll probably be under it again, but it's 56. But the interesting thing is, even though these Yankees have had these devastating injuries, their number hasn't moved. So it shows you these guys who make these numbers and look at it, and that's their business. They're like, you know what? The Yankees will find a way in the regular season. Maybe it affects them in the postseason, but they expect somebody to be able to walk in and have them still. The number is still 102.5 today, even after Severino, even after Paxton, even after Stanton. So it shows you. And I feel the same way. I feel maybe Severino hurts them in the postseason. But somebody will be able to beat most of the teams they play and give them 5 innings and turn it over to the bullpen and get their offense going. So I think even though they've had these injuries to Severino and Paxton, I expect them still to have the same season.
Well, if you think about it, Mike, they won 103 games last year, and Severino pitched 12 innings. So they've shown that they have the arms and they have the team to survive without him. And they've added Garrett Cole. So you're adding Garrett Cole into the spot that was filled by Sabathia last year. yeah, I think there is reason to believe that the Yankees won't be severely damaged by these injuries for the regular season. You know, you're looking at Paxton missing probably 2 months, and that hurts for sure. But Montgomery is back. People like what he can do in terms of just filling a spot. And Stanton, you know, again, we don't know how long he's going to be out. He may be back in early April, but the Yankees won 103 games last year, and he played 18 of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, if Stanton and Severino had been huge parts of the team last year, people might be viewing these different. But this was a 103-win team basically without those two guys last season.
And what it does is, you know, the thing that now we don't know how long Paxton's going to be out. I guess he'll be fine. And you mentioned Montgomery, Loizaga. No one mentions Herman. It's like he doesn't exist. I mean, we have to have something about Herman's status, right? No one has mentioned Herman anywhere.
Well, he's going to be suspended for the first, I think, 67 games. I think is the number. So he'll be back in, you know, the second week of June. I think is when he's scheduled to be back. And so again, he and Paxton could be returning around the same time. And as long as the Yankees have sort of held their own in their absence, those are going to be two very big additions to their pitching staff, whether it's, you know, one or both of them going into the rotation, depending on the injury situation with other guys at that point. But yeah, you know, Herman certainly was a big piece of their team last year. They're going to miss him for the first 2 months. But obviously with the situation with the domestic violence suspension, they understand that they're not going to have him. And, you know, they certainly support MLB in terms of, you know, the domestic violence policy.
You know, the biggest guy who is the winner from the Stanton injury clearly is Andujar. It gives him a chance to find a niche, maybe DH a lot, maybe show that he can play a little outfield. Obviously, Frazier's in the mix too. We know that. I mean, especially if he behaves where he doesn't tick off the whole team again. But those two guys, how about Andujar first? Do you see Andujar as a DH, or do you think Andujar finds a niche? Either, I doubt Urshela gets off slow, so let's not go there. Let's go that Urshela gets third. Andujar at first, Andujar in the outfield. What do you see for Andujar, or do you just see him strictly as a DH?
No, I think they're going to give him every chance to see some playing time out there in left. You know, he's already played a little bit out there. You saw him, the first ball that was hit out there, he called off Gleyber Torres and made the catch. And it wasn't exactly a hard catch, but at least, you know, took control of the play. He hasn't played outfield since he was a kid. I think he said he was 11 or 12 last time he played the outfield. But they think he's athletic enough to do it. And with the bat that he possesses and what he showed in that 2018 season, they would like to get his bat in the lineup. So I think you're going to see him in the lineup plenty, certainly early in the season. You know, as long as Stanton is out, maybe he gets a shot in left. Maybe he is the DH, but that's a spot that Stanton, you know, may have filled a lot as well. First base, I think, is, you know, Voit is going to have the opportunity to have that job forwarded there as well. So they have some options at first base. But I think they're going to do everything they can this spring to give Andujar a chance to show that he can be versatile, so they can, you know, give Aaron Boone some options in terms of keeping his bat in the lineup.
And the Yanks are treating Urshela, who, listen, played great last year, even played well in the postseason, has, you know, Urshela has earned the right to be an incumbent. I mean, really, you know, when you think about it, it's an amazing achievement where he is, you know, it's his job.
Yeah, as well it should be. I mean, the way he played last year, you know, I talked to some of the executives from the teams that had him before, Toronto, Cleveland, and they always said there was never a question about his glove. He knew he was going to be a star at third base defensively, but he just never panned out offensively. And last year, something clicked for him, and you got to give him and the Yankees coaching staff credit for unlocking that potential. And as long as he continues to hit, and he doesn't even have to hit as well as he did last year, but as long as he's up there as a representative at bat who can contribute, you know, the Yankees are a pretty loaded lineup to the point where they're not going to be relying on Urshela to be the main guy in their lineup. I don't know if he's going to put up a 900 OPS again this year, but if he can go out there and, you know, play great defense and put up a 750 or 800 OPS, he's not going to go anywhere.
What do you expect from Frazier?
Well, when Paxton got hurt and Severino went out for the year, the immediate thought is you expect him to be wearing somebody else's uniform,
right,
in a trade for a pitcher. Wouldn't surprise me at some point if that were to happen. I don't know if it'll happen earlier than July because teams don't exactly dangle their starting pitchers out there for sale earlier than that. You know, if Stanton is going to have lingering injury concerns, it will, you know, certainly open the door for Frazier to show that what he was able to do at the plate last year was not a fluke. We know he can hit in the big leagues. He's certainly, like you said, he's annoyed some people and rubbed some people the wrong way, and maybe another year and the experience of being sent back down last year will help him realize that he needed to, correct some of that. He's a talented kid, and I think if he gets the opportunity, he's going to need to seize it because you only get so many chances.
No, listen, he's a good hitter. I mean, his defense was bad. I don't know. Maybe it'll improve. We'll see. I mean, but he's definitely a good hitter. Andujar's obviously a really good hitter, and I know the Yankees like Andujar. He's a nice kid too. I know everyone likes him. You would think Voit would have a solid season. Urshela, as you said, probably doesn't have to do the same thing. Torres is going to be really good. LeMahieu was, let's be honest, was their best player last year, and he doesn't have to have the same season. He had a great season last year, and they brought Gardy back, which was a positive because first of all they need some lefty balance. Secondly, Gardy's a good leader for that team.
He is absolutely, and this has always been a team with veterans. But there's something about having veterans who have been in New York and been in the Yankee uniform that resonates in that clubhouse. And in recent years, as they've seen some guys step away and retire, CeCe and Gardner were sort of the last of the old guard, and so the fact that there is still a link to that last championship team and a guy who's played at the old stadium and really been around for a long time. I think there's a lot of value there on and off the field. To me, LeMahieu is the most interesting guy to watch this year because he came in last year. We had no idea where he was even going to play. When they signed him, a lot of people were sort of puzzled about why they would sign this all-star second baseman when it was not a need. You had Gleyber Torres there at the time. Didi was going to be coming back, and you knew that you were going to have to fill one of the infield spots early in the season. But LeMahieu was the guy who people said, well, he's been a really good offensive player, but it was in Colorado. Is he a Tulsa Forest Field product? And he came out last year and showed that, doesn't matter if he's in Colorado or not, he's a really good player and a really good hitter. And now he's going into a contract year. So, coming off of the season he had last year, there should be nothing but the utmost confidence on his part and on the Yankees' part. Send him out there every day and let him be a really big, productive piece of this lineup.
And LeMahieu learned what it seems all righties learn at Yankee Stadium. You know what? Get the ball in the air, right center field, and they all do it. I mean, they're all very good at it. You see that more and more in modern baseball anyway. It started with Piazza. But, these guys, all those righties start the ball to right center field really well. Get it up in the air and get it out to right center field, and away it goes. Yeah,
LeMahieu's a good hitter, so it's not like he has to change his approach. He's not a guy who just sat there and pulled the ball for years. He didn't get it's not like the lefties who come to Yankee Stadium and just say, I have to hit it down the line because that's where I'm going to, put the ball out. LeMahieu is a guy who's spread it all over the place and has the ability to hit it to all fields, and he certainly took advantage of Yankee Stadium at times last year.
You think they miss Didi, or you think Torres is so good they don't miss Didi at all?
I think Torres is that good that he's not going to be missed. And the fact that they had Urshela emerge as the player he was last year, the fact that LeMahieu had the year he had last year, you didn't need to go out and spend $15 million on a shortstop when you had an infield that had LeMahieu, Torres, and Urshela in it. So, I know the fans love Didi, and he's a colorful guy, and his Twitter feed and all the rest of it. But I don't think they're going to really miss him, on the field all that much.
How about Betances? You think they miss Betances?
Well, again, there's another guy. They won 103 games last year, and he threw two batters. So, he's look, Dellen's one of my favorite guys to watch since he came up for the first time. He's a dominant reliever. The Mets, I think, are going to be.
I think he's going to be I think he's the key to the Mets season.
I agree with you. I think they're going to be really, really happy, and that's going to look like a really, really smart signing for them.
I agree.
Dellen is one of when he's healthy, and obviously, the injury problems he's had have, hampered him in the past year. But when he's healthy, he's one of the three best relievers in the entire game, and I think he's a great signing for the Mets. The Yankees will miss him, but again, the 2019 Yankees found a way without him with all the other arms and all the weapons they have in their bullpen, and all those guys are back. So. I think their bullpen will still be really good, even with the Kevin from the other side of town.
Talking about Mark Feinstein, I think he'll be the closer. As a matter of fact, I would not have brought Diaz back. I am in the minority, I know, but I think there's some guys, okay, that you bring to town, and when they don't do it, you get them out of town. They came here, it wasn't right, it didn't work. Okay, the Yankees have done it very quickly with pitchers and done it. They did it last year, well, and he went to Cincinnati and pitched great. So the bottom line is everyone's not for New York, and I just think it's more that with this kid than it is that he just didn't have great stuff or anything else. I don't think, and maybe I'm going to say I'm going to be very wrong on this. We'll see. I don't think he'll be the closer. I think by the time May comes around or late May, early June, I think Betances will be the closer of the team.
Well, the fact that you have a guy with a proven track record like Betances, four-time All-Star and just a dominant reliever on the roster, gives you options. So if Diaz does struggle early, you can make that move and nobody's going to question it. I don't agree they should have moved him only because I think at that point you would have been basically getting pennies on the dollar for a guy who you really paid a ton for. And so, to give him a second year, maybe, we've seen some guys need that first year in New York to adapt and figure it out. He's still very young.
Well, the one thing they did,
old.
though, as you noted, the one thing they did, though, is they didn't just say we're going with Diaz or bust. They brought in someone who can replace him. So that's the
Correct.
one thing they did, which I think is going to prove very smart because I don't think it's going to work. And if you notice, Rojas has already said, I haven't named the closer, but my understanding is Diaz is starting the year as the closer. That's what I've been told. So let's see if it's true. Unless now yesterday he was bad. So I mean I don't want to make it about one time out yesterday, but I think that I think if you bring Diaz back and he's not the closer, I really think he'll suffer in the setup role. I think he will hate it. I think. That's why I think I thought what you had to do was find someone who wanted to try to think, hey, I can bring him back to the American League, and maybe he's going to jump off the bad year and have another huge year like he had in Seattle. So that's how I would have looked at it. He's young. He's got good stuff. Maybe New York wasn't for him. I would have figured I could find someone who would take him. I don't know if they tried, but I thought he was so awful last year. I wouldn't have brought him back.
Well, they could have found somebody to take him. There's no question about that. The question is what that someone would have been willing to pay them.
Yeah.
And I don't blame Brody for not wanting to sell low on him because what's the point of that? If he's having a bad year, you'll be able to sell low on him again. But I just think, maybe bringing in Betances was as much about bolstering your bullpen as it was sending a message to Diaz and saying, look, we have another alternative here. You're going to have to earn this. You're going to have to win this closer job or at least keep it if you have it at the beginning of the year. Maybe it's a little bit of lighting a fire under a guy and saying, last year you came here and you were the closer automatically. That's not the way that's going to work this year. You're going to have to earn it.
What do you think of the Mets this year?
I feel like we say the exact same thing every year. If they're healthy, there's no reason they shouldn't contend. With the starting pitching that they have and some of the offensive talent they have, when you look at Alonso and you look at McNeil and Conforto, I've been a Cano fan for a very long time. I watched him, come up from the day he hit to the big leagues. I think there's something left in there. And
I agree. I've always been a Cano guy too, so I happen to agree. I think Cano, and he was good after the All-Star break last year. He bounced back. I thought he looked like the old Cano until he got hurt. He looked like the old Cano in the second half of the year. He looked like some stranger in the first half, I admit, but he looked like the old Cano in the second half last year.
Yeah, so I mean, if he bounces back with any sort of, I'm not even talking peak Cano season, but a good season.
Yeah, 2080, it's 2080 or something like that.
With the rest of the guys they have in that lineup, the starting rotation they have, and the potential for a pretty good bullpen if Diaz can find his way with him and Betances and a couple other guys, I think the Mets, they're in a really, really tough division with three teams that could potentially win that division besides them, and a Marlins team that's really improved itself a lot. And I don't expect the Marlins to be in the mix for the division title, but they're not going to be an easy out. It's not like, the Yankees can look at their 19 games of Baltimore and say, if you don't win at least 15 of them, you've done a bad job. The Marlins are going to be a tough team this year. And I don't think any of those teams, the Mets, the Braves, the Nats, the Phillies, can go into Miami or have Miami come to them and just assume they're going to win that series. So really tough division. But I think the Mets, if they can stay healthy and perform the way that they're capable of, they have every chance to be a contender this
year. Who's a surprise team this year that you like? Who's someone who's going to, maybe surprise a little bit this year?
I know a lot of people are on the White Sox. I need to see it. They've got a lot of young pitching. I like the Keuchel addition, but Giolito's got to, build on what he did last year. And they have a lot of really young guys who are going to have to prove it. If I'm thinking of a surprise team this year, Oakland wouldn't be surprised because they won 97 games last year, but I could see them overtaking Houston, which I think some people would be somewhat surprised
I
about.
would be surprised by that. I would. I think Oakland's good, but I'd be surprised if they were better than Houston. I would be surprised.
Yeah, that might be. I think Oakland has a really good foundation out there. They've got some really good young pitching that's coming up, and I just think the Houston thing. I'm really intrigued to see how they respond to everything that's going on. They're going to go into ballparks this year, and I don't care if it's a division rival or the Kansas City Royals or a random interleague team. They're going to be treated like the biggest villains in sports. And you just wonder how that's going to have an impact on these guys. Do they go out there and say, we're going to show you, and they, grip the bat a little tighter, and all of a sudden don't forget, they lost Eric Cole this year. So that's going to be a big subtraction from their roster as well. They're still a very talented team. They're still going to have a good team. But I'm just intrigued to see how they respond to all of this because, remember back when A-Rod was going through all of his steroid saga stuff and the Yankees would go somewhere, he would come to bat and he would be booed like, Satan was coming to the plate. And everybody had the foam syringes and the signs and the whole thing. That's how that's how the Astros are going to be treated. And anybody who was on that 2017 team, whether it's Altuve, Bregman, Springer, Correa, they're going to get booed like they've never heard before every night that they are on the road this year.
Talking about Mark Feinsand, and it's funny, the one who said that when people have stated that, baseball didn't hand out any punishment, leave it to Jeter to put it perfectly in perspective when he said, you know what? They've been punished, and they will continue to be punished. Basically, public opinion will take care of that. The public will take care of that, and he's so right. First of all, they did get punished. The guys in charge got fired, so they lost their jobs. So they were suspended and fired. So they were punished because they were the ones who could have said it's over. So they had to be the ones who were reprimanded. The players will get theirs from other players. They'll get it from the fans. They're going to get punished. They're being punished right now, as an example. I mean, as you just said, they're going to go and get booed everywhere they move. They're going to be punished.
I agree. This is not going to go away. And the people who are calling for MLB and the commissioner to rescind the championship, I don't think anybody's going to look at that championship and not know what the story behind it was. You hear people all the time say, well, I look at Hank Aaron as the real home run king. People know Barry Bonds' record is tainted to some extent. I think the Astros title is tainted. So you don't have to take the trophy away. That's just the way it's going to be viewed from now on. And like you said, the architect of that team was Jeff Luhnow. He's no longer there. He got fired. The manager who everybody in baseball thinks highly of, A.J. Hinch, he was the field leader of that team. He's gone. So, Dusty Baker's a great manager, and I think he'll do a good job there. And James Click's a really bright young executive, and I think he'll do a really good job running a team for the first time. But to say that the Astros weren't punished is just flat out wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree.
People want their pound of flesh. They want the players suspended. But you have to just, take a step back and say, if the players hadn't had immunity in this case, you wouldn't have had a case. You wouldn't have had all the information that you had in this investigation.
Well, but not just that. I think where people are lost is that the players were not in charge. If you can do this, if the players could say to the manager, shut up and sit down, we're doing this, then they get suspended. But they couldn't. If he didn't condone it, if he didn't want it to happen, he would have shut it down. The general manager would have shut it down. The general manager would have shut it down. They were in a position of authority. They could have shut it down. They didn't. That's why they got fired. That's what they're in. You go and get the guys who are in charge. Players are brought up in everything they are taught to do. Their whole lives, as you know, is basically to enhance their performance. They are creatures who live to enhance their performance. You have to understand that going in and understand they will do anything within their means to enhance their performance. So they are never ever going to be reprimanded for performance. The other thing is, unless it's them that are doing it, like steroids. If it's the team that's telling them to take the steroids, they wouldn't be reprimanded. The team would. So the same thing here. The team had to do this. This wasn't the players. The players weren't in authority. The other thing is that you can't just wipe the players out. They're the game. They're the product. So there's a fine line there for baseball because the players are the product. So you can't destroy your own product. So it's a very tricky thing for them. And listen, Manfred didn't do a good job. Baseball should have been down there and should have made them jump through hoops the first day. Manfred did a terrible job with his own interviews. So they made their bed with that stuff. They really did. But I do think people are seeing now how tough it's gonna play on them day in and day out. The only thing that's too bad is that they don't get to New York. They don't get to the Yankees until September, because I know they come play the Mets. But if they had gotten to Yankee Stadium in April or May, it would have been a scene. It really would have.
I wonder if you're going to see something along the lines of the Astros opened the season in Anaheim, and there's already a lot of word that the Dodger fans are swallowing up tickets for those games.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah, that makes sense.
I wonder if Yankee fans are going to go
maybe
to the Mets games just to give the Astros a piece of their mind, since they don't get to see them until September. But if you think let's say things start to die down a little bit as the season goes on, trust me, when the Astros come to the Bronx in September, it'll be ramped up right again.
Yeah, no question. I agree with that. Cole, it's interesting. Everything I hear about Cole now, we all know what kind of player he is, so there's no dispute there. And I was very impressed by him in the playoff game because he didn't have anything that day and he battled like crazy. I was sitting behind the plate watching him, and I was like, wow, this is a heck of a performance for a guy who doesn't have anything. And he did a heck of a job. But here's the thing. The Yankees, as you know, ostracized Mike Mussina. And Mike Mussina, on his worst day, never made the kind of comments Cole just made. I mean, Cole just basically said, I'm Einstein. These other players are a bunch of dopes.
Yeah, well, Mussina was also sort of as you know from being around at that time, Mussina was sort of a private guy.
Very. But I never heard him call the players out. I never heard him call the players out as much as Cole did, and basically say, "Don't go to them; they won't understand. I'm a major intellect."
Like almost everything else in sports, Mike, if he goes out there and pitches to a 2.5 ERA and wins 22 games and helps the Yankees win 100+ games, he can say whatever he wants. Nobody in that clubhouse is going to care. He's there to win. They understand he is who he is. He impressed me a lot in his press conference. Everybody that I haven't been to the Yankees camp yet this spring, but everybody that I know who's been around him just can't say good enough things about him. He's been on good teams. He understands that he's not going to be able to ostracize his teammates and keep harmony in the clubhouse. So,
does he always talk that way about how brilliant he is, though?
That I don't know. I haven't been around him that much.
Okay.
I've been around him, limited basis in person. I haven't covered his teams, obviously. But it's interesting that he and Trevor Bauer really dislike each other. They were teammates at UCLA, and apparently we're not friendly.
Right.
Bauer's gone after Cole, and Bauer.
Bauer. I've had my battle. I've had my battles with Bauer, as you know. Bauer and I've gone at it a few times too. Bauer's come after me. Bauer doesn't have a brain in his. Bauer doesn't have a brain in his head.
And he's went back at it this spring. So it's interesting that a guy, who's sort of been a rival, so to speak, of Bauer's,
yep.
Is getting a little mouthy. But like I said, if Cole performs, no one's going to care.
Right. The other thing that's funny is the Yankees, you got guys on the team that say, hey, you know what? I think they cheated in 19. Well, wait a second. If you think they cheated in 19, now the guy you're going to play behind was in the middle of that team. How about that? Do you go down and ask him if you cheated in 19? I mean,
what's interesting is he's a pitcher, right? So if you're stealing signs, if you're banging trash cans, if you're wearing buzzers, if you're doing whatever scheme it was, the pitchers actually weren't the ones doing it.
No, but they knew about it. But they knew about it.
Of course they knew about it. It's funny. You've seen guys around the league now who have former members of those Astros teams now on their team.
Yeah, the Mets do.
And the White Sox have Keuchel, and the Nationals have Will Harris.
Yep.
There are a bunch of guys around, and each one of those teams seems to have come to peace with the guy who's on their team, even as they've criticized the Astros. So it shows like you can be really mad about it right until the guy who was part of it comes to your squad. So
then that changes everything. I told you, if Altuve came to your team tomorrow, he's forgiven.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And so, unless it's the Yankees, or the Yankees or the Dodgers, where, people on that team believe that you're one of the reasons that you're cheating, and you were one of the reasons why you
are you someone
their championship team.
Are you someone who believes that this went past 18, that they were cheating in 19, or you don't think they were cheating in 19?
I mean, I can't say definitively. I would lean towards no, only because if the players who were interviewed with immunity fessed up to everything that happened in 17 when they won the World Series, and fessed up to whatever extent they did about 18, because that was in the report as well, why would you lie about 19? Because you didn't win the World Series. You weren't worried about having a championship there vacated. You talked about your championship team. And you also know that you have immunity right up until the point that MLB finds out that you didn't tell them everything and you lied about something else. Then all of a sudden, you're in real hot water. So if you're going to tell the truth about the years that you cheated, why would you then lie about the other one? Because if it comes out that you lied, then you're facing suspension, for lying during.
I wonder why so many. I wonder why so many players believe the buzzer's true. I wonder why, because there's so many players who have been adamant about the thing. They think that the buzzers are true, and I don't know if the buzzers are true or not. I have no way of knowing. And Hinch said, I never even saw anything like that. Now, I don't know that he's telling the truth or not. I wouldn't believe him anyway, because last year when they brought up a question about it, he lied right to their face anyway.
He indignantly lied about it too. Actually, called it a joke and really tried to discredit the people who were
right. He did. He actually went really far. He actually tried to make fun of the guy who brought it up.
Correct.
So yes,
correct. Yeah. I think I think the buzzer thing really gained momentum because of the video of the walk-off home run and Altuve telling him not to take off the jersey.
Right.
And that was it was a huge moment in the season, and it was a lasting image. And then people started coming up with still photos of a guy with a bandage on his wrist or whatever it may have been, and it just sparks all kinds of wild conspiracy theories. I have no idea if they use buzzers or not. I've heard from enough people who would probably know. They don't think they did, but look, if evidence were to come out tomorrow that they did, would I sit here with my jaw dropped, being stunned by it? No, but if I had to guess one way or another, I'd say they probably didn't.
And baseball's got they're to blame for some of this stuff. They put that equipment. They made this all possible by putting that equipment in there. You saw those stories about how Beltran and A-Rod used to go back there. The guys who were on the bench used to go back there and fool around with the equipment as soon as it was in there, about stealing signs from the new video equipment and everything. So, I mean, that's what really started this whole thing, is when baseball put that equipment in there.
Yeah, I mean, going back to a video room to watch your at-bat from earlier in the game is one thing. I still don't have a problem with that. It's the live, the real-time video access that sort of spurred all this on. And obviously, MLB after at some point put monitors into the people into the clubhouse and the video room to monitor to make sure they were being used appropriately. I would expect that would still be the case for whatever video is left when this season starts. But I think people have learned a lesson about how this all went down, and I would anticipate that they would take every precaution necessary going forward. Not to mention the next team that gets caught doing something like this, the Astros punishment is going to look like nothing.
Right, that's true. And all you would have to do, if you really wanted to end it, all you would have to do is take that system and put it on a 5-second delay to the dugout. It wouldn't affect anything as far as decision-making, as far as anything else. Now, I know they've shortened this year. You got 20 seconds to make a decision on whether you want to, challenge the replay or not. But if you made it 5 seconds, so you made it 25 seconds instead of 20, and you put it on a 5-second delay, you couldn't steal the signs with it. It wouldn't work. So, I mean, that's all you have to do is just take it and if you have a satellite dish versus a cable television, if you have one hooked up, say, to Cablevision or Altice and one hooked up to DirecTV, the DirecTV one's always going to be 4 or 5 seconds slower because it's bouncing off the satellite. So, I mean, that's why I have one room where I have it on one and one room I have it on the other. I have to go turn the other one down if I have the people over and we're all watching the same game, because the game will be ahead of it. So you have to link them up. So that's all you really have to do. They just should have been more, they should have been wiser with it. That's all. If you put a delay on it, you can't do it. That's all there is to it.
That's right. And I think, whether it's a delay or something else, I don't think you're going to see this happen again because, Houston lost for, some high draft picks and their executives got fired, the manager got fired. That's, the next, if somebody had the audacity to try this again, in whatever form or fashion they do it, they're going to end up, I don't know if the old NCAA death penalty comparison applies, because it's really hard to, put a franchise on probation like that, where you say you can't be in the postseason in a professional sport, but it's going to be really severe. And I don't think teams are going to mess with that at this point.
You think Hitch manages again in the majors?
I do. I really do. He's a really well-respected person. And I think even even when you read the commissioner's report and when you saw his interview with Tom Verducci, you got the sense that he was not involved in the creation of this. The whole breaking of the monitors thing, to me, that's the whole thing. He says, well, I should have told them that, to cut it out. Breaking 2 monitors in the process is usually a pretty good sign that you're not on board with this. So I don't know at that point.
Yeah, but you're the manager. The manager could have shut it out, though. He could have shut it down, though.
When he saw the 3rd monitor come in, at that point he should have said, guys, did you not get my drift here? Cut this out. Right. He didn't do it, and I think that was the biggest mistake he made. But I think he'll get another shot. Cora is going to be a different story. We obviously haven't seen the Red Sox investigation really come down. I think he's going to get suspended for a longer period of time. Maybe 2 years.
Why is that? Why do you think he's going to get 2 years?
Well, I think he would have gotten 1 year just off of the Astros situation.
And do you think they have incriminating evidence about what they did in Boston?
If they find anything, I don't know what the ruling's going to say. Assuming that they find something was illicit with the Red Sox, even if it wasn't nearly to the degree of the Astros, then Cora would have not only been the mastermind of the Astros thing, but then after the commissioner put his ruling out saying everybody needs to cut this out or you're going to be in real trouble, he then not only did it again, but took it to a new team. And if they come up with anything that he did with the Red Sox in 18, you pile that on top of the Astros thing, and I just think it's impossible to think that he's not going to get more than Hinch got. And the fact that he was, Hinch's biggest blame here is not stopping it. Cora, from all accounts, created it. And I think that's going to be a black mark that follows him around. And I would be surprised if he managed again. I think, put some more time between it. Time does heal things, but I just don't. I'd be hard pressed to imagine Alex Cora getting another managerial job.
Yeah, and he's a really good manager too. Too bad, he
really
was
good manager.
Really good manager, a good guy too. A good guy and a good manager. Really was. Yes, he was a good guy to talk baseball with. He really was. So he'll be missed. There's no question. And I don't know what happens to Beltran. I don't know if he gets. First of all, he's free to manage if someone wants to take a chance on him. The question is, right now you wouldn't be able to do it because people would haunt them on the other stuff. In the beginning, I thought the Mets could withstand it, and they had told me early on that they were going to try to, unless another shoe fell. When they heard from the commissioner's office, they didn't like what they heard. But they also, I think they felt that Beltran just would not stand up under it. In the beginning, I thought he could. When I watched how crazy it got, I don't think he could have handled it. I think it would have been too much for him. I
think the thing that really sunk him was, coming out in November and being on the record saying, I don't know anything about it, when, clearly all the evidence that was presented by the league was that he did. I think he got a little bit of a raw deal in that he was, the only player from the team mentioned. Now, obviously, it was a different situation because he was a manager in the big leagues. I don't know if he'll ever get the chance to manage again. I think he should. I think he might have to, start out with a coaching position, whether it's a bench coach, a hitting coach, and get back into the game in a lesser than managerial role. See how that goes. And if it doesn't follow him around at that point, then I think he can work his way up into being a manager. Carlos is a really smart guy. He's a very well-liked guy who really is a baseball savant. And it would be a shame if he never got the chance to do it, just based on this. Look, we've seen Mark McGwire join the big league staff at some point after all of his controversy. So time does heal all wounds. And, in Carlos's case, I think, there's a pretty good chance that at some point that will heal as well.
All right, listen, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
You got it, Mike.
Thanks. Mark Feinsand. When we come back, we'll be joined by WFAN.
Mike's on. He's ready to go. On the Fan. New York Sports Radio. Mike's on. Mike's on. He'll get you the sports any way that he can. It's Mike Francesa on the Fan. Sports Radio 66 and 101.9 FM.
All right, Mike, here we go.
WFAN.
All right, we join you on the Fan take you till 6:30. Steve Summers at that time on a Thursday night as we finish up the final days of February, and all anybody cares about is whether you get this virus or not. It's gotten crazy already, and we're just getting started. So Should be an interesting weekend from that standpoint. Before you know it, it'll be March. You always look for March first. Always do, because then you can start to see the spring. So you get through the month of February. Weather hasn't been bad. Overall, it's been pretty good. So you're already deeper in. No Yankee got hurt this afternoon that I know about yet. It's early that maybe by the night, maybe by this evening somebody will get hurt. But they almost got through a day. It's funny. Stanton is probably. I was trying to think of the last time somebody annoyed the Yankee fans as much as Stanton has recently, because doing it every day when Stanton first got here, and most of it, talking the trade when it first happened, most of you liked the trade. I was against it, but most of you liked it. Not all of you, but most of you. And the trade made sense. I mean, listen, I didn't like it. I didn't like paying them. I thought they had too many right-handed hitters. I thought they needed more lefties. I still think they need more lefties. They just happen to be completely overrun with right-handed power hitting DHs. But he has just not had that moment you need that gets everybody on your side. He didn't hit in the postseason. 2 years ago, he waved at the ball. He didn't look good. They kind of those ugly give up at bats. The 0-2 and you flail, and you head back to the dugout with your head down. Last year, obviously, he's hurt all year, and now he starts this year and he's hurt again. So you can just hear the frustration when people talk about what he's getting paid and just his whole persona, where he does not have. He has a reputation for hitting a lot of home runs, but he hasn't had that moment where the Yankee fan. And listen, this guy's got ability. We all know he's got ability. I mean, the guy's had one outrageous year, but he's had plenty. I mean, the guy's got 300 home runs already. He's a solid home run hitter. He's a solid player. He hasn't distinguished himself as a great player, and he's limited. And now he's hurt all the time. But what he does here is he opens it up for some other guys. He gives Andujar a chance to really get some serious playing time, whether they want to give him a chance in the outfield or whether they want to give him a chance at DH. You got Frazier in the mix. You're not going to get hurt here. It would take a lot. It would take a lot to derail the Yankees in the regular season. And the perfect example of that is, as I said to you yesterday, the number after Severino's goes down, Paxton's already gone down, Stanton might not be ready for the regular season, and the Yankees over on the number hasn't moved. It hasn't moved an inch. It hasn't moved a half of a point. It is still 200. It's still 102 and a half. So they don't believe any of that will have an impact on the performance of the regular season, and I happen to agree with them. They have enough depth. They've overcome more. If they don't have Stanton in the lineup, they'll have Andujar in the lineup. If they don't have Andujar in the lineup, they'll have Frazier in the lineup. And they have a bunch of guys ready to jump in. They have plenty of power. There are a couple of indispensable Yankees. Judge comes close, but I think the most, because of the position he plays, and LeMahieu had a great year last year, but I think the most indispensable Yankee in the lineup, the everyday lineup, is Torres, especially now where he's going to play. And I think he's become the guy. Listen, I think Judge is the biggest star of the group. But you know what? He's been frustrated by a lot of injuries also, let's be honest. And Torres, at a very, very young age, has become a very special hitter. Now, did he fatten his stats up last year on the Orioles? Absolutely. I mean, we know he did. But you know what? Those games count. So when you're playing the Orioles and it's 7-1 in the fourth inning and they start marching in these guys who are grade D pitchers who you're going to pound into oblivion and score 10 runs over the, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th innings and win the game, 16-2, those numbers count. And he did a lot of that last year. The Yankees did a lot of that last year. A lot of teams did a lot of that last year, which is why the number's still on and two, because there's this great disparity now in baseball, more than there's ever been before. It used to be that you won a third and you lost a third. and start from there. You know, the Orioles have trouble. They barely do that. If they're lucky, they do that. Used to be you'd get 60 wins. You know, really, you'd get 60. Unless you were just completely inept, you'd get 60. And now 60 is a long shot for them. But Stanton has become this guy that Yankee fans just want to take out every bit of their frustration, their anger, anything, their high expectations on this guy. Do I now look at it and say, "Oh, Stan won't be ready for regular day"? Oh, Severino. I don't think it will have much impact on the regular season. I don't. I think it could have. I think Severino could have an impact on the postseason. You know, you're going to get Paxton back at some point. You're going to get Armand back, who everybody forgets at some point. No one talks about him. It's almost like he doesn't exist right now, but he's going to come back. Somewhere around July-ish, he's going to come back. You figure they'll have him ready to go by then. And he would be like a big acquisition. And you're going to rely on guys that, you know, and you can also use the opener if you want to do that. They have a very deep bullpen. You got Loizaga, you got Montgomery, you got, you know, obviously you have Happ, who's going to be, you know, Happ will win 15 games with this team. Tanaka will do the same, you know, and they won't lose a whole lot of games. And Cole will win more than that. I don't know if he'll win 20. You can never expect a guy to win 20 anymore because you're going into the season, you got 32 starts. If you take out a reasonable amount of no decisions, you know, you're leaving those games in the 7th 1-1 or 2-2 or whatever, you know, and you're not getting a decision in those games, that's the hard part. I think here's what I would say about Cole. 75% to 80% of the decisions that he gets, I'd even go 80%, will be wins. So I think for every 2 losses, there'll be 8 wins. That sounds like 16-4 at the end of the season. Yeah, something like that. You know, 16-4, 17-5. You know, something in that neighborhood. 18-6, 18-5. A lot of strikeouts, probably 300 strikeouts. You just can't say how many wins because you just don't know how many of those. Just look at DeGrom. How many of those games have you ever added up? How many of those games 0-0, 1-1, trailing 1-0 that DeGrom has left after the 6th and 7th inning in the last couple of years? If there's been one, there's been 20, 25 of them. I mean, he's pitched incredibly, and look at how many games he's won the last 2 years. He should have another. He should absolutely have another 15 wins over the 2 seasons. I mean, it's not even worth discussing. I would say 15 is being conservative. That's how well he's pitched. But you throw it in with the bullpen. You take the 2 issues, the bullpen and their inability to score in a lot of those games. Put those 2 things together, and you wind up with an absurd number of no decisions on games where he pitched, you know, absurdly well, just incredibly well. Frustrating, yes, but obviously he's been honored. You know, they've treated him the right way. They've acknowledged him for what he's been able to do. So it's not like they haven't, because they have. They've acknowledged him in the right way. But easily can tack on 15 wins over the 2 years. That's being fair. So will Cole have 20 wins? Who knows? But like I said, he'll be a 10-plus pitcher, which is what you look for. Somebody who's 10 games more over 500 than his record. 15-5, 16-6, 17-7, 10-plus. That's how I look at starting pitchers. I don't look at them as they have to win 20 games, not with 32 starts. So I look at it as 10-plus. Just win 10 more than you lose. And pitch your team deep into the 6th, 7th inning. If you do that, the Yankees are going to win most of those games because they have a better lineup and a better deep bullpen. So on this Thursday, as we finish up the month of February, and never a bad thing in this business, we'll be back after this. And a lot will be decided in the next couple of weeks with this thing. And you just heard that if you were just listening to that commercial, and he's been swamping every bit of media with his commercials. Do you want a debater or a doer? Now you understand you want a doer, but this is being president in the modern age. You must campaign on television. Part of that is debates. Now, if he ever wins the nomination, which I don't think there's any real path for him to win the Democratic nomination now, if he did, you would have to say that he and Trump, and you have an incumbent president there, you can't debate him. He's the worst debater I've ever seen. Now, this guy, as you know, has more staff and more people than anybody could possibly have. So they had anybody they needed in there they hired to get him ready for this debate. Supposedly they worked for days. He unloaded his opening joke about 2/3 through the debate. They had practiced this. This is a brilliant man. His jokes were so bad, and he had delivered the opening joke about halfway through the debate. And people look at him like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? They all knew it was an opener. They all knew it was opening line, and he delivered it in the middle of the debate. Plus, he called them all contestants. The contestants. I mean, he just is. He is such a bad debater that he makes Biden, who by normal standards is a poor debater, look like JFK. And I thought, well, give him one time around. We've seen Ronald Reagan didn't do well his first time around. Even Barack Obama, who's a great speaker, it was not good in his first debate. If he could maybe get a little better. If he was a 0 the first time, he was a 2 the second time. So you're not getting a debater, you're getting a doer. But the debate had to hurt. It had to. I mean, it was terrible. It was just unbelievably bad. I mean, it's scary how bad he was. All right, the PGA moves to Florida this weekend, so it's down at PGA National. If you've ever been down there in the Palm Beach area, it's down there. The Honda Classic. Right now, English, Lewis lead at 4 under par. You have, let's see who's close. Not a lot of guys that not a lot of household names that are, knocking the door down. Really not. Now, Tiger pulled out with a bad back. Woodland is even par. Fleetwood is even par. So, I mean, the names, the biggies, none of them, I don't think, were they all over par today? Is that true? Now I got to look for them because I got to see where they are. Justin Rose, 2 over. Man, where are these guys? They all shot that badly? Is this true? Koepka 4 over. Wow. Koepka doesn't care in these tournaments. He just shows up to kind of get some. Mitchell, who won it last year, 5 over. Furyk 8 over. Man, oh man. Who am I? Wait, there's got to be some guys that are in the neighborhood here. None of the big guys are. Well, Fleetwood, like I said, is even. Woodland's even. I mean, geez. Terrible. Really? I mean, that's not a great group. I'm surprised. Ricky Fowler 6 over. Man, look at that. Ricky Fowler 6 over. Jeez. I know Tiger pulled out because his back was bothering him. All right. The other story is Tom Brady, and you keep hearing these things, and now guys have reports. Well, Tom now is is this and he's that. He's meeting with this team. He's so far from going back to New England. Now it's a long shot if he's going back to New England. Folks, I think it's the same shot it was when it started that he's going back to New England. And no one knows what that means yet. They haven't had the talk yet. Until they have the talk, and they're going to have the talk, we're going to find out. The talk's going to be, here's what I want, and here's what I want done. Do you do it, or do I walk? That's going to be the talk. They haven't had the talk yet. Now, we can all talk about, speculate what that means as to what kind of quarterback he's going to get if Brady leaves. Let's see him leave first. Did I buy the Cowboy rumors? I did not. Do I buy the Giant rumors? I did not. Do I think Indianapolis could make some sense? Yes. Do I believe Tampa is in the mix? I don't see him going to Tampa. I could see him maybe going to the Colts. That team has got a very good offensive line. They got some weapons. I think it's a possibility. I think Tennessee's definitely a possibility. Obviously, the Chargers are a possibility. That would be a very different role for him. There he's selling tickets. There he becomes kind of a guy who's the face of the franchise. Even Vegas makes some sense, although I don't see him and Gruden together. I just don't. So I would say Tennessee makes plenty of sense. Colts make some sense. But I still think, push comes to shove, I would still make it 60-40 he stays. And you think about it, this is going to create a lot of movement here. Where's Rivers playing next year? If Rivers is in Tampa, where's Winston playing next year? If Brady's moving and goes to Tennessee, where's Tannehill playing next year? Where's Teddy Bridgewater playing next year, now that Breeze is back? Who's quarterback in the Chargers? A lot of rumors about Bridgewater going to Chicago. Light a fire on the Trubisky. Rivers, a lot of talk about him going to Tampa. Also some talk about him being the guy in Indianapolis. So there's going to be we still know about Cam Newton. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all lines up. That's all. There's going to be and obviously when you're starting with the guy who has been the premier player of the generation, and he is even, the premier player of the generation, that his movement would really be so different for this league. To think you can't even fathom the Pats without him. And you heard that Montana told him, there was a story that said Montana's advice to him was stay with the team and the system and the culture that you know. Do not leave. And I think that is very sound advice because Tom is a very rigid, disciplined, hardworking guy. And from that standpoint, I just think the culture has to be exacting because he's not going to want to go to a team where guys don't work hard or where he goes into a room and they aren't, steadfast, where they're just applying themselves in the most rigid of ways, that they're asking the right questions, that they're all motivated, that they all know what their roles are. When they go to the practice field, they all know their assignments. They know everybody else's assignments and know each other's assignments, all the things that becomes to him second nature, because he's always been able to be that driven and that exacting because he was in a culture where that was demanded. If you go to the Pats, it's demanded you work hard. It's demanded that you study the playbook, that you know your role, you know what you're supposed to do, you do your job, you know what your job is, you understand the offense, There they do all the extra mental work and all the extra mental preparation, and the wide receivers go into the deep back rooms to learn how the other half lives. Same thing with the deep backs; they go into the wide receiver rooms to see how they're taught and what they're expected, so they understand and look at it through the other's eyes. I mean, they don't miss a trick. They get tough, versatile, smart players, players who can play more than one position, do more than one thing, are tough and are very, very smart, and that's what they believe in. And Brady's been that too. Brady is a guy who was self-made. He was a guy who went there with a bad body, who just made himself, willed himself to be this quarterback, with thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of hard work and throwing and preparation and learning the position and doing all the things that you have to do if you're that low a draft pick who lost his job as a senior, and nobody thought he was going to ever be this kind of player. So from that standpoint, I just don't know if there's another place where he would be content, where he would get all that on the way in the door. And without it, he might feel just so lost that I can't believe that I'm not in that culture anymore, where I go to practice and expect everybody to be on the right page and there to be no fooling around and everybody's completely committed to winning and nobody takes any nonsense and all the different things that have become part and parcel of the culture of the Pats. He would miss that. And he has to recognize that. And I'm sure he does. And that's why, to me, until I hear that he has officially left the team, I still think he's going to go back. That's just me. I've thought that all along. And I think Kraft really wants him back. I don't know where Belichick stands. I don't know if Belichick wants to go get somebody younger and tinker. I don't know if he wants a mobile quarterback in this new game, because a lot of guys do. A lot of guys, and to be honest with you, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, I could name 100 quarterbacks. Tom Brady, I put in there too. They would have been sacked 10 times plus in the Super Bowl. Mahomes' ability to be quick, to be able to be mobile, to be elusive, to be able to move and throw, to be able to get away from the initial rush and throw was the difference in the game. Because a normal quarterback would have been sacked, not 4 times, but about 10 or 11. That's how overwhelming their pass rush was for the Niners. But he got out of there and he made plays. He got away and he made plays. On the Hill play, just see how amazing it was that he even got away from the pass rush on a Hill play. And some of the other times where they had him dead to right. So mobility has become such an incredible part of the quarterback game, an incredibly important part of the game. And I think there's no coach who doesn't realize that. And that makes Tom a little bit of a dinosaur in this day and age, although he's a little quicker with his feet than people give him credit for. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to watch. All right. As always, the program brought to you by Casamigos Tequila, brought to you by those who drink it. We will see you tomorrow for a Friday program. Steve Summers is next. Enjoy your Thursday, everybody.